Hi everybody, it's Manny Aragon from the Rolf Workshop Center for Structural Performance. And recently, actually today, I was talking with a former client of mine, and the topic came up of structural integration and the fact this particular person had never experienced the transformation, the powerful transformation of the 10 session series. And so uh, uh, she asked me to send her something that spoke about that. So, Ellen, this is for you, but it's also for anyone else who is curious about that, because there's a lot of different things thrown around about structural integration, the Rolf method of structural integration, and nobody quite knows what it is and what it's for. So let me just talk about this a little bit to try and clear that up for folks out there, because this is really an amazing process. This is a process by which I initially partook as a young man. I was in my 20s, and it radically changed my life in a way that I decided to do this work to spread it and share it with other people. So this can be an incredibly transformative work, or it can be done in a very mundane fashion, and that really depends a lot on the client, the practitioner, and the goals of the sessions or the series. So let me talk a little bit about the magic, because I think that's something that we overlook. Too often people come in and they are looking for pain relief, basic pain relief for back pain, knee, ankle, shoulder, hip, neck, arm, elbow, wrist, those types of things. So typical stuff that ails us from day to day. And typically people come in because they are not able to get resolution from other modalities, whether they've been to the doctor, whether they've been to the physical therapist, the acupuncturist, so on and so forth. Go down the list. I'm usually one of the last people that people will call up. But for people who are looking for very special things that are particular to structural integration, like the postural work that we're known for, like the transformative body work that we're known for, um, the personal growth part of that. Those are something that I think are really special and unique about structural integration. In fact, Dr. Rolf did not consider, and this is something I learned somewhat recently, but she did not consider and did not want structural integration to be associated with the term bodywork. She never called it that. This was personal structural integration. It was a transformative process for the person themselves, the entire person, the psyche, the self value, the way a person exists in society and in the world can be radically changed through this process. So in a good way. So let me talk about this. So I have a few bullet points here. Hopefully you can read. I'm not the greatest speller, or I don't have the greatest handwriting here. So, but we talk about the hallmark of our work really is postural improvement. So when posture improves, as we work through the course of the series of session, posture improves. The body becomes more aligned in gravity, in the gravitational field. And this is, again, a unique aspect, a unique viewpoint of this particular modality, structural integration, that makes it so different from anything else, that our primary focus is to get a human body more upright and aligned with the field of gravity, with the power of gravity's field. So the energetic field of gravity is a real thing. It's a Newtonian thing. You can look it up and study about gravity and the various aspects of it. But the way it affects a human being and how we can harness it to our advantage, that is the essence, the root of the magic of structural integration, what it is and how it transforms and how it's capable of ongoing transformation when we take it upon ourselves to go that route. Verticality, we become more vertical. As we become more vertical, we become taller. And as we become taller, we things change. They start to change. We perceive the world differently. We start to feel like we travel through the world in a different way, and we become more confident. So what is very typical is that a person's confidence will improve, sometimes dramatically. Uh, Emotional reservoir, I talk about improved emotional reservoir. Well, when you're moving more efficiently, when you're not using as much energy to hold yourself up and move yourself around because you're better aligned to the gravitational field, such that the earth can push up through your body and hold you up. This is a thing. For every force, there's an opposite force. This is, as gravity pulls down, so does the earth push back against that. And to the extent that we're aligned, it gives us basically free lift in our body. Structural integration helps us to harness that lift, and it changes how we feel about ourselves, which changes our entire personality, changes our psyche. So our emotional reservoir improves. In other words, throughout the day, we have more energy to deal with things, so we can respond rather than react, and we have more of a reservoir, emotional reservoir, to deal with those things that come up throughout the day. Over time, so a quick vignette. I have a client who I saw early on in my career. He was kind of a prickly guy. His game was to get people's goat, and he was really good at it. And you might think of him as a jerk, but that was his thing. That's what drove him, was to get people's goat. And for some reason, he reached out to me. We did the series. I can't remember if he had back pain or whatever it was. We did the series of structural integration, and he actually became a much nicer person, not just to me, but to people around him. Other people came up to me and mentioned that he had become nicer. He'd be not docile, but he was not as abrasive as he was before. They could see that he had good inside of him, where before they just couldn't see that. He was just so abrasive and nasty. When we're more vertical, this actually changes the shape of our bones over time, because remember, bones are growing and breaking down all the time. This is a thing. Again, you can go online and look at how bones grow and break down, but the point is they're constantly doing that. And bones grow relative to the strain that we put on them, to the force, the directionality of force that travels through them. So as we become more vertical, as we become more aligned in gravity's field, so our bones start to change slowly over time. You are never the same once you go through this process. You are never the same. Your body's never the same. It moves forward. It evolves. It keeps going forward in a positive direction. Should you continue your focus on that, and that doesn't require additional structural integration. It requires some mindfulness. And we'll talk about that. As we become more vertical, this then supports more verticality, because gravity now becomes our friend instead of our enemy. In the first session, we open up this rib cage, we open up the chest, and the vital capacity, the actual ability of the lungs to draw in oxygen and air improves. It actually increases. This is a measured thing. It happens. I can't say for each person the same way, but it definitely is consistent. We've taken measurements. Some people use sphygmometers to actually measure this. It's a thing. It's something that happens. And imagine, as we're taking in more air with each breath, using less energy for each breath, as the elasticity of our rib cage improves, as we release the tissues, so can we take more air into our body and bring more oxygen into our system. That starts changing the entire chemistry of the body. It changes the functionality of the brain. It changes the functionality of the body down to every single cell, as each cell gets more oxygen in and is able to transport the waste out more quickly and efficiently, so that they're expelled through the lungs. So this is another dramatic. Imagine how that is going to now change your perception of the world as you start to live with more ease in your body, and it isn't so difficult to take a breath. All these little things. It isn't so difficult to stand up. You have more emotional reservoir. You have easier access to the oxygen that nourishes every cell in our body. Fine motor control improves. We say this by calling it gracefulness. People's gracefulness improves. As we start to get more vertical. And with this internal focus, as we're working with the practitioner on the tissues of the body, we start to get more differentiation in our functionality as we start to feel more discreetly in our body. So this is why we say fine motor control improves. You can see it on film, you can see it in pictures. People's movement becomes more fluid, more smooth, more comfortable, less effortful, more efficient. So this, again, we're lowering down how difficult it is for people to exist in the world. So this becomes an easier day. Every day becomes easier for you. Let's see, many clients rediscover a love for their bodies. This is a huge thing. How many people out there feel terrible about their body? How many people out there have something about their body they really don't like, and they focus on that instead of focusing on what they love about their body? I had a man come in recently who wanted to consult with me because he was convinced his legs were bowed. He had done many cosmetic surgeries and various different things, and he was considering the Rolf work as a substitute, a nicer substitute to some barbaric leg straightening surgery that he wanted to have done, where they break the leg bones and then they put some kind of like brace on there and crank it down like I don't know, a palate widener or something. It sounded barbaric. Not only would it not let him walk and function for months on end, I think it was like 4 or 5 months, but it was going to be painful and he would be confined to a bed. It was terrible. I thought, how could somebody consider doing it? So he brought himself in so I could examine his legs, and I thought, these legs look no different than typical legs that I see. In his mind, he had created something, a dislike, a hate for his body and his legs, which were no more curved or bent than the typical legs that I see. But in his mind, it was a big problem. Structural integration, one, would help him over time straighten those legs. It will. It's not something I could say it's going to straighten to this degree, but it will over time because of what we talked about in the bones growing and breaking down and the verticality and force of gravity. So, but this man, the thought that this man could come to love his body for who he is and how he was born, and then use that love for his body to pay mindful attention to start to change his body in a positive way instead of hating his body and forcing himself into something that he imagined would be a better place, but probably is going to result in more pain and hate for his body. So a lot of people are like this. I have clients who won't take pictures because they can't get in front of a camera. In their mind, they still, 50-year-old clients, they still hate their bodies from whatever they were told when they were younger or whatever they told themselves. We become, in essence, a better version of ourselves. And as we become more comfortable in our own bodies, we're able to grow. This is the root of personal growth. It's not a philosophy, it's not a psychology. It's, at its essence, the foundation of the subconscious confidence that we feel or don't feel in our body and its ability to hold us up and carry us through this life. So I encourage you to consider the possibility of what it might be like to live in a more comfortable, efficient, fluid body that you love, that you can fall in love with. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, give me a call, reach out, text, email, answer this if it's on Facebook, if it's on YouTube, wherever it's at. And I pledge to help you out. Manny Aragon for the Rolf Workshop Center for Structural Performance. Hope this was helpful for you.